I thought I was just a nurse to him, just another face in his final days. But when he took my hand and whispered those words before he died, everything changed. My past, my pain, my future. It all shifted, and now I carry his secret and his love. Before I share the most unexpected moment of my life, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon. If you've ever believed love can bloom in the most unexpected places, this story will touch your heart. I've been a nurse for over 12 years now, most of those spent in a quiet hospice tucked just outside the city. People often ask me how I do it, how I can sit beside so much pain, so many final moments. But truth is, you learn to carry it. You learn to hold someone's hand without falling apart, to offer comfort in the face of the inevitable. I always tell them it's not about death, it's about dignity, about making sure someone's last chapter is written gently, with kindness. Over the years, I've been there for so many goodbyes. I've heard last words whispered through cracked lips, seen families crumble and rise again. I've wiped tears from cheeks both young and old, and said prayers for souls I barely knew. Some faces stay with me, most fade with time. That's just how it goes. You give them peace, and then you let them go. That was the rhythm of my life, consistent, predictable, professional, until him. He wasn't like the others, not at first. He came in cold, distant, guarded behind sharp eyes and quiet grunts. He didn't want help, didn't want company, said very little beyond what was necessary. Just another patient, I told myself. Another bed, another goodbye. But I was wrong. He wouldn't become just another story. He wouldn't fade like the others. And I didn't know it then. But this man, this gruff, private, fading figure, would reach into the heart of everything I thought I knew about myself. What he whispered on his deathbed, it didn't just surprise me. It changed me deeply, forever. And now I can't forget. I don't want to. That's why I'm telling you this story. Because sometimes the person you think means nothing ends up meaning everything. I first met him on a rainy Monday afternoon. His name was Mr. Whitaker. He was wheeled in by a quiet attendant and barely looked up. I introduced myself with a soft smile and my usual warmth. "Hi, I'm Ava. I'll be your nurse while you're with us." He didn't respond, just turned his head and stared out the window, rain sliding down the glass like slow-moving tears. I'd seen this type before, wealthy, proud, not used to needing anyone. His file said he had no visitors listed, no family contact, just a business manager who handled the paperwork. I wondered what kind of life led to a goodbye so alone. He didn't like to be touched. He pulled his hand away when I tried to adjust his blanket. He refused food, medications, anything that made him feel dependent. But he wasn't angry, just detached. Cold, yes, but not cruel. Like someone who had closed the door on the world a long time ago. Each day I came in, I tried to connect. A simple good morning, or a light question about how he slept. Sometimes he'd grunt. Sometimes he'd ignore me completely. One day I noticed he always watched the rain. So I made a passing comment. "I love the sound of it too. It's like the sky is trying to speak." For a second, just a second, he looked at me. Really looked. No words, just a glance. But it was the first crack in the wall. I didn't know it then, but that look was the beginning of everything. Something in me told me not to give up on him. Not yet. There was a story behind those eyes. A storm. And somehow, I knew I was about to walk right into the heart of it. It started with music. I have a habit of humming when I work. Nothing loud, just soft little tunes while adjusting pillows or checking vitals. That day, I was humming an old gospel hymn my mother used to sing when I was a child. As I reached over to adjust his IV, I heard something I wasn't expecting. "You know that song?" His voice, dry and low, startled me. I froze. "Yes," I said, turning to face him. "My mom used to hum it when she cooked Sunday dinners." He looked away, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch, almost like a smile trying to find its way out. "My mother sang it too," he said. It was the first real sentence he had spoken to me. From that day, things began to shift. He still didn't talk much, but now he'd ask small things: what the weather was like, what time it was, what day. And if I hummed, he listened. One day, I brought in a small radio and played a little jazz while I cleaned up his tray. His eyes closed, and he whispered, "Coltrane." I nodded, surprised. "You like jazz?" I asked. He said nothing, but his fingers tapped the rhythm on the armrest. And then came the stories, slow, scattered stories about growing up near the Mississippi, about a woman he once knew who made peach cobbler better than his own mama. The more he talked, the more I saw the man behind the silence, a man who had loved, who had lost, and who had locked all that away. I didn't understand why he chose me to open up to, but each story felt like a puzzle piece, and even though I didn't have the full picture yet, I was starting to feel like I belonged somewhere in it. One morning, I found him awake early, just staring at an old photo in his lap. It was black and white, the edges worn, like it had been folded and unfolded 100 times. I didn't mean to intrude, but something about the way he looked at it made me pause. He saw me glance at it. For a moment, I thought he'd hide it, but instead, he held it out. "Do you see her?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I looked closer. A young black woman stood in front of a small country house, smiling wide like the world hadn't touched her yet. Her eyes, her cheeks, even the curve of her lips. Something about her felt familiar. Too familiar. "She's beautiful," I said gently. "Who is she?" He was quiet. Then, slowly, he said, "She was the only woman I ever truly loved." His eyes didn't leave the photo. We were young. I was stupid. My family, they didn't approve. She was everything good in this world, and I let her go. I've lived with that regret every day since. I didn't know what to say. I'd never seen him like this. Vulnerable, raw. He looked at me then, really looked. "You remind me of her," he said. "Too much sometimes." The air in the room felt different, heavy with something unspoken. I left the room with a knot in my stomach. I couldn't explain it, but that photo, that woman, she felt like a ghost brushing past me. Something about the way he looked at her, and at me. That night, I couldn't sleep. There was a story there, one that didn't belong to just him. I could feel it. Deep down, I knew this wasn't just his past. It was about to become mine. After that day, something inside me shifted. I couldn't get that photo out of my mind. The way she smiled, the softness in her eyes. I kept thinking, why does she feel so familiar? And then it hit me. She looked like my mother. Not just a passing resemblance. It was deeper than that. The shape of her face, the dimples, even the hairstyle. I went home that night and pulled out my own box of old family photos. My mother had passed away 3 years earlier, but I still had everything: her letters, pictures, even a few journals she used to keep. I flipped through them, heart pounding, and there it was, a letter, dated back to the early 70s, written to a man named Charles Whitaker. My hands trembled as I read it. She'd written about missing him, about being pregnant, about how she didn't expect anything from him, but she thought he deserved to know. She said she'd raised me on her own and that she hoped one day he'd understand why she stayed silent. I sat there, stunned. Number. My whole life, my mother never said a word about who my father was. Every time I asked, she'd just smile and say, You've got all the love you need right here. And now, that quiet man in the hospice bed, the one who barely spoke, who slowly began to open up to me. He wasn't just my patient, he was my father. The truth felt too big to hold. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or run. So instead, I did what I always do. I went back to work the next day, heart racing, secrets swirling inside me, pretending everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. Everything had changed. His condition started to decline faster than any of us expected. He was weaker each day, his voice fainter, his eyes more distant. But every time I walked into the room, he still looked at me like he was trying to say something he couldn't quite find the words for. I wanted to tell him the truth, that I knew, that I had read the letter, that I was his daughter. But something held me back. Maybe it was fear. Maybe I was waiting for him to say it first. Then came the night shift. It was quiet. Most of the other patients were asleep. I stepped into his room, and I knew right away. This was it. The machines were slowing. His breathing was shallow. I walked over, took his hand, and sat beside him. For a long time, he said nothing, just stared at the ceiling, his lips moving slightly like he was having a silent conversation with someone I couldn't see. Then he turned to me. His eyes, though tired, were clear, focused, full of something I hadn't seen before. He took my hand, held it tighter than I thought he still could, and whispered, "I always wondered if I'd see her again. I didn't. But I see you. You're hers. You're mine. I'm so sorry." Tears welled in my eyes. I nodded. I didn't say a word. I just squeezed his hand and rested my forehead against it, letting everything I'd held inside finally rise to the surface. That was the last thing he ever said. Those words, spoken in a cracked whisper, in a quiet room filled with beeping machines and dim light, shattered and healed me all at once. And when his hand finally let go, I knew I had just lost my father. The morning after he passed, I drove home in silence. No music, no calls, just the hum of the road and the sound of my heartbeat trying to make sense of what had happened. I didn't go straight to sleep. I couldn't. Instead, I pulled out everything: the letter, my mom's journals, even that photo he had shown me. I needed proof. I needed to know that what I felt, what he said, wasn't just some dying man's delusion. And it was all there: names, places, dates. My mother and Mr. Whitaker had been together for 2 years, long before I was born. He had even sent letters, ones she never answered. I don't know why she kept that part of her life locked away. Maybe she wanted to protect me. Maybe she never forgave him. Or maybe she hoped I'd find out one day, when I was ready. I reached out to his estate manager, who confirmed that yes, my name was on a private note Mr. Whitaker left behind. Not a legal document, not a will, just a handwritten letter addressed to my daughter. I read it over and over, tears soaking the paper. He didn't leave me riches. He left me something more powerful. He left me truth, a name, a connection I didn't know I needed. And in those lines, he told me what he couldn't say out loud: that he loved me, that he was proud of the woman I had become, even from a distance. I had gone into that hospice room a stranger, but I walked away with something I never expected: a father's love, given in the final breath of his life. And that changed mine. It's been months now since Mr. Whitaker, my father, passed. Sometimes I still sit by the window at work during my break and watch the rain, just like he used to. It reminds me of him, of our quiet talks, of the music, of that final whisper that turned my world upside down. I didn't tell many people. This story, it feels sacred, private, but it lives in me now, in the way I treat my patients, in the way I listen more deeply. In the way I hum softly when the halls are quiet, I carry his memory, not just as a nurse, but as a daughter. I found a photo of him from his younger days. He looked strong, proud, a little stubborn. I framed it and placed it beside my mother's. Two people who shaped me in completely different ways, whose love stories didn't last, but still left me behind as their legacy. I'm not angry anymore. I'm grateful, because in a quiet room full of machines and fading light, I learned something I never expected, that even the smallest moments, the softest words, can carry the greatest meaning, and that love, even delayed, can still heal. Before all this, I thought I understood life and death. I thought I knew what it meant to say goodbye. I thought I'd seen every version of loss and closure. But this story, my story, taught me that some goodbyes are beginnings in disguise, that even at the end, there's room for truth, healing, and love. I still work in the same hospice, same halls, same rooms, but I'm not the same person. Now, when I look into a patient's eyes, I wonder what stories they're holding in, what words they've left unsaid, and I listen more carefully because I know now one quiet whisper can change everything. Mr. Whitaker didn't raise me. He didn't walk me to school or teach me how to ride a bike. But in the final days of his life, he gave me a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. And that means more than I can explain. So if you've made it this far, thank you for listening to a story I never thought I'd tell, because I was just his nurse until he showed me who I truly was. If this story touched your heart even a little, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more love stories told straight from the heart. Sometimes the people we care for end up caring for us more than we'll ever know.